When you hear the phrase rural America, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's probably rolling hills, maybe a single main street, the heartland. But what if that one simple picture is actually getting in the way of seeing what's really going on? Okay, let's dive into this, because it turns out there isn't just one rural America. There are at least 6.
And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. All these labels we use, the heartland, flyover country, they're easy, they feel familiar, but they're also kind of dangerous. They lump all these vastly different communities into one box. And that leads to these one-size-fits-all solutions that, let's be honest, don't really fit anyone.
So, if our old map is totally wrong, what does a better one even look like? Well, researchers took a really deep, data-driven look at the thousands of communities that make up this huge part of the country. And the numbers they found? They're pretty staggering.
First off, this isn't some tiny slice of the country. We are talking about 46 million people. That's roughly 1 in every 7 Americans who call these communities home. I mean, that's a population bigger than a lot of entire countries.
And their economic punch is just as massive. Altogether, these communities contribute an estimated $2.7 trillion to the U.S. economy. So yeah, understanding what makes them tick is absolutely crucial for the whole country's prosperity.
To get past that simplistic, single view, we needed a whole new framework, a new map. And the analysis did just that. It sorted thousands of rural counties into 6 totally distinct groups, or archetypes, each with its own economic engine and its own unique story.
And this table just lays it all out so clearly. You've got your agricultural powerhouses, your manufacturing workshops, and so on. But just look at the extremes here for a second. On one hand, you have resource-rich regions, places driven by things like oil and gas, with a massive GDP per capita of nearly $75,000. Now compare that to the remote regions, which are struggling with people leaving and have a GDP per capita of just $24,000. The gap between those two is just wow.
All right, so that's the data, but what do these archetypes actually feel like on the ground? Let's zoom in on a couple of really different examples to see how life can be in places we used to just lump together as rural America.
First up, let's look at the manufacturing workshops. These are communities, a lot of them in the South, that are becoming these amazing hubs for reshoring, bringing advanced manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. A perfect example is Jackson County, Georgia. It's home to a massive $2.6 billion SK Battery America plant that's basically building the power for the electric vehicle revolution.
And this has a huge, real-world impact. The data shows that these manufacturing workshops have the highest upward economic mobility for middle-income folks. Their incomes grew by an average of 2.3%. That makes these places powerful engines of real opportunity.
But then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have a totally different reality. The remote regions. These are communities really defined by population loss and economic distress, places with long histories of hardship. Think of somewhere like Tallahatchie County in the Mississippi Delta, which is really struggling with low income and a labor force participation rate that's actually below 50%.
And the economic challenge here is profound. With a GDP per capita of just $24,000, these regions are a full 25% lower than even the next lowest group. So the big takeaway here is that the day-to-day experience of living in one of these places is fundamentally totally different from living in a buzzing manufacturing hub.
But these economic differences are really just the start of the story. This new map shows that where you live shapes so much more than just your job. It affects your well-being, your opportunities, your access to basic services, and it has real consequences for all 46 million people we're talking about.
For instance, when you rank these archetypes on overall well-being, so things like health, financial security, and education, a really clear pattern jumps out. The agricultural powerhouses consistently come out on top, ranking number 1. And at the very bottom, ranking last on pretty much every single metric you can measure, are the remote regions.
But here's something really troubling. There's one trend that cuts across every single one of these archetypes, from the richest to the poorest. And that's what happens when we look specifically at the lowest income residents. The picture gets a whole lot darker. Across the board, low-income residents actually saw their incomes fall. And check this out. The steepest drop, a staggering negative 5.2%, was in the resource-rich regions. This tells us something so important. Even in the places with the highest GDP, that wealth is not trickling down. It's a universal challenge of declining mobility for the people who need it the most. And these divides pop up in access to really basic services, like a bank. This chart shows the share of areas that are what they call banking deserts, which just means there's no physical bank branch anywhere nearby. Remote regions and migration magnets get hit the hardest, and that really limits access to capital and makes it that much tougher for local businesses and families to get a loan and get ahead.
So, okay, the picture is complicated. The challenges are very real. But here's the good news. By actually understanding these different archetypes, we can finally move away from those failing one-size-fits-all policies and start using targeted, effective strategies that actually work.
And by understanding the different types of communities, we can see what works where. So let's look at 3 really powerful strategies, each one tailored to specific local needs: cultivating innovation, delivering targeted job training, and creating modern healthcare hubs.
First up, cultivating innovation. So, instead of trying to become the next Silicon Valley, communities can build on what they're already good at. In Independence, Oregon, for example, an organization called Corey helped the town leverage its deep agricultural roots to build a thriving AgTech, or agricultural technology scene. They're creating new, high-growth tech businesses right out of a traditional industry. It's brilliant.
Second, targeted training. Let's go back to that huge battery plant in Georgia. How in the world did they hire over 2,600 skilled workers so fast? They did it through a program called Georgia Quick Start, which actually partnered with the company to design a custom, super fast training program. This guaranteed a ready-made workforce and made that multi-billion-dollar investment a win for everybody.
And finally, healthcare. Did you know that over 2/3 of the nation's primary care shortage areas are in rural communities? A program called Project Echo pioneered an amazing solution, using telehealth to create virtual hubs. Specialists can now train and guide local primary care doctors, bringing expert-level care for really complex conditions like hepatitis C to the most remote corners of the country, and now even the world.
The lesson here is so clear. To solve complex problems, we have to see the full, complex picture. That old idea of a single rural America was holding us back. Now, with a better map, there's a much clearer path forward. And it leaves us with one last thought. If we were getting it this wrong for 46 million people, where else are simple labels hiding a much more complex and much more important truth?